Is there a strategy that'll help you grow your company faster? CEO Sales Strategies is an investigative business podcast for entrepreneurial people who never stop asking questions. Highly acclaimed sales revenue growth expert Doug C. Brown interviews CEOs, business owners, and professionals who serve them to uncover and share actionable tips and methods behind their bulletproof sales strategies. Topics covered on the show include their failures, struggles, secrets, and processes that help them succeed in selling millions to billions of dollars of their products and services, all with the sole aim of helping you grow your business. If you are eager to know the most effective sales secrets from the A players of the game, then the CEO Sales Strategies podcast is certainly the place to be.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Doug C. Brown with the CEO Sales Strategy Podcast, bringing you insights from people who have built multi-million to billion-dollar companies and the people who serve them. Today, I have a guest. His name is Jesse Nieminen, and it's funny because he has this company called Viima, VIIMA.com. It's a really cool innovation vision software. It's software for a service. It's low barrier of entry to get in, and it's a really cool software. And I had a really difficult time actually pronouncing his last name because the gentleman is from Finland, and me being from the United States, I had to practice his name several times, and I did mess it up a couple times. So you'll see that in the interview. But we had a really good conversation on and around sales strategies, getting really clear, on the vision of life and business and ideal personas and people, building out your story and what it takes to really do online marketing the right way. And so I think you'll find a lot out of this. He's a super smart guy. And has done quite well for himself. So without further ado, let's welcome Jesse to the call. Hey everyone, this is Doug C. Brown with the CEO Sales Strategy Podcast, and we've got a wonderful guy here from Helsinki, and for those of you who don't know, that's Finland, and he has a software company, and I always love interviewing people from different countries as well, because I always mess up their names. So I'm going to do the best thing I can and try it. We're going to welcome Jesse Nieminen to the call, and he has a company called Viima.
Viima, yeah, that's correct.
So, well, welcome.
Thank you.
So you have a unique background. I love it. And what I wanted to start with is, you have such a unique name. Where did it come from? The company name?
So it's actually like in Finnish, it's maybe like a cold or a fresh breeze of air, kind of like a gust of wind. So we thought that would be kind of like what we would be bringing to the market that we're operating in. So that's kind of like the origin for the name.
So since it's such a cool name, what does the company actually do? I know it's a software for service, and
yeah. So basically, it's an innovation management platform that we offer as a service for all kinds of customers around the world. We currently have more than 10,000 organizations signed up for the tool, ranging from like super small teams of just a few people all the way to the global Fortune 500.
So for those folks who may not understand what innovation vision means, what if you broke it down into more specifics, what does the software actually accomplish for somebody? Because I think it's pretty cool.
Sure.
I looked through it.
Absolutely. So for us, it all starts with ideas. So everybody has ideas. And of course, like in a larger company, a lot of those ideas might get kind of like lost in the water cooler talks and whatever kind of like lack of those you have these days. But nevertheless, it all starts with the ideas. But of course, the ideas themselves aren't worth that much. You have to implement them and really to unlock the business value of those ideas. So what we offer is a platform that allows you to basically collect all of those ideas systematically directly from a different from different stakeholders, be it employees, customers, partners, you name it, and then you basically take those, find out which ones are worth implementing, and then prioritize them, and kind of like at the end of it, you get a tool that helps you manage the whole process from an idea to an innovation.
How many entrepreneurs out there that are listening to this right now? You're the creative types, right? And you're just like, your brain explodes with ideas. I can monetize this. I can monetize that, right? I mean, I know
Exactly.
I'm not much, different from other people. And then I'm jotting them down on notepads, and I'm jotting them down on like, oh, I'll guess this one on Word or this one on Excel, and I'll bank them, and then then they die, right? Because it's I love what you said, something to the effect of ideas, are not much unless you're basically implementing them into a business strategy that actually produces something.
Exactly.
So I love the software, and folks, I am definitely plugging the software because I do really like it. I look through it, and you've built yourself a multi-million-dollar company out of this, right?
Like, we've bootstrapped the company, so we haven't really gotten any outside funding except for some minor government grants here in Finland. But other than that, we've really always tried to focus on delivering value for customers, and then building the company with those funds.
Well, that's awesome. So let's talk about bootstrapping a company, because here in the United States and worldwide, I mean, not all our governments are so willing to give even a grant, right? Unless
yeah, that's true.
So, and a lot of companies start out with an idea, the ideation. Hey, I think I can do this. And it's always wise to find out if the market will accept that. So you bootstrap that. So you've had this company now, what is it, 8 years, if I remember correctly?
7.5, so soon 8 years.
It's almost 8 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So, when you get older, you date time ahead of time. So tell me the origins, year one, what were you guys focusing on, and, what brought you up to, the first seven figures, if you will?
Sure. So, I think together with my co-founders, we actually met on the first day of our studies at the local university here in Finland. We all studied computer science, and we were all quite entrepreneurial by nature. So soon we figured out that we really liked working together, and we thought we would like to kind of do this bigger project together as well, of actually building a company. And at some point, we then took part in a local incubator program facilitated by the Entrepreneurship Society of our university. So that's kind of where we got the initial boost to kind of get started. And after the program, we ended up setting up the company officially. In the beginning, our idea was actually a bit different. So we were focused on just helping companies kind of meet the needs of their customers, or provide a platform that helps them figure out what their customers need, and kind of that then turned into what we're currently doing through a number of iterations and twists, from working with our pilot customers and figuring out where they currently are and what they kind of need out of that process. So there were quite a few steps on the way, and a few smaller turns, but the general direction has led us to where we currently are.
So you bring up a couple good things. It's like the Google guys, right? You get together in the dorm rooms, or you figure it out. You're young, you've got these innovative ideas. You guys get together, put this idea together, and then I think you've said very clearly you found out what your potential clients need. Yeah. And what I've recognized is, in a lot of corporations, companies, businesses, whatever, even solo practices, they get in with something and they figure, well, I got an idea, I'm getting into this, I'll just push this upon. And what ends up happening a lot of times is, sometimes it works, and sometimes it works just a little bit. It's not, and they kind of get stuck. But you've gone back and said, hey, I found out what they needed, what they wanted, what they desired, and then you crafted the program around that. Is that accurate?
Yeah. I mean, to be a bit more specific, like in the beginning, we focused on that like transparent collaboration with customers with the product that we offered. But we soon figured out that like most of the companies out there were just ready for that kind of transparent collaboration with customers online. They were used to doing focus groups and whatnot. If even that. And then from that, the end result was that we kind of like needed to, or like our platform had a lot of cool things that our customers really liked, but it wasn't really solving their most urgent needs. And most of them first needed to get their internal processes right, and they needed help with those. And then that's kind of like how we then started moving in that direction. And ever since, we've kind of like been moving there and figuring out what we can do to help our clients.
I'm speaking with Jesse Nieminen. I'll get this right before the interview, folks. Of Viima. And, I think we're bringing up a really huge problem for many, many companies. They're not really clear on their ideal persona, and they're not asking what that is. And so they're doing business in areas that, quite frankly, aren't that profitable, or they're taking up a lot of their time, and they're building the business essentially on their back. When we have that ideal persona, that ideal client, and we know, like you said, what we were giving them stuff they liked, but they didn't have what they needed, what they really wanted. So once you figured that out, all of a sudden, wham, it starts opening up the opportunities and the revenue flow to come in. And I know this might sound to some people like a soft skill, in business. It's not, hey, they increase transactional value by, doing, these tactics. But the reality is this is a big one for people to understand that the market determines most of the time what you buy, regardless of what Steve Jobs said. I mean, he's kind of the lucky one, if you will, right? So let's move on to some sales strategies that you used in the company. We did an article, and I remember you put in the article, we built out that in the low scalable go-to-market approach, right?
Yeah.
And, and that takes much more time and effort, but you can obviously lead to better results down the road. Can you share the steps that maybe, are needed to take to acquire clients from your perspective?
Sure. Of course, like depending on what kind of a business you're in, then the steps might be a bit different. But for us, as a software as a service platform, it all starts, of course, online. So we have to build a great online presence that brings a lot of traffic to our website. Then we try to convert those visitors to our website into leads that we can then provide additional content for. So in practice, they might subscribe to our blog or download some guides from our website, and then subscribe for additional guides that bring a lot of value for them. So we create tons of content that provides value that helps, of course, people find us, but also to want to be kind of like kept in the loop, so to speak. And then when the time is right for them to actually figure out software for that kind of a purpose, then obviously they'll remember us from the interactions in the past. Or then if they are just looking for that software, then they might sign up for the free version of our software right away. So we actually provide a version of our software that is free for as many users as you want to, and for as long as you want to. So we're super generous on that, and that really helps us convert a lot of that traffic into very relevant leads for our sales guys to work on. So it all starts with like creating the online presence, creating a lot of valuable content and a lot of value for potential customers, and then once they start to get more interested on us, we then convert them step by step towards like customers on that path.
So I'll bring this into a term that we use all the time. It's called getting in the door, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
What you're doing is using the power of online to gather an audience, and that audience is then getting drawn in by some type of value proposition. They're taking that, and then your thought process is get them in the door so they can experience what's going on, and from there you'll work on the sales expansion process from that point forward.
Exactly.
Is that right? Okay. So for those of you who are a little bit older like me, and you're used to coming in and trying to top down sell, I believe, and I'm really curious, Jesse, to get your feedback on this. I believe because, you're a much younger guy than I am. And, my degrees were in, biology, nuclear medicine. So I'm somewhat of a nerd as well. And, you got an engineering background and science background as well. So I think we can relate to that. But you're in the younger generation, you're coming up, and, the younger generation is embracing online more than offline ever, especially with the pandemic that happened and everything else that's going on.
Yeah.
How important do you think it is for companies, whether the traditional, brick and mortar, been there in 6 generations in my family? Well, that would be a really good business, but, been there 2 generations in my family, and I don't really think I need online, or I do think I need online, but I don't know how to do it. What would you recommend to these people that are thinking, you know what, I want to go online, but I'm not really sure that I should? In other words, from your perspective of somebody who's coming up in the world, in your peer group, that are going to be the majority of consumers in the future.
Yeah.
How important is online today compared to, let's say, even 5 years ago?
I think like even 5 years ago, I remember seeing some research. I can't for the life of me figure out what the actual percentages were, but something like even 5 years ago, maybe 80% of all purchase decisions started online. So people started doing their research online of all purchasing, not just by millennials or anything, but across whatever you're looking for, it always starts online. So if you're able to be basically the first party who they come across in all of their searches, you'll have a really strong market position, regardless of what it is that you're selling. So that is, of course, like a huge competitive advantage if you're able to succeed that. Of course, it's not necessarily easy and straightforward and quick to do that. So depending on the business you're in and the kind of like cost structure and fit, it might not be something that everybody should be doing. So if you're that mom and pop store, you might not be able to compete against some of the bigger players out there, and it might not really be something that you want to focus too much effort on. But then again, for other businesses like ours, it really is the core of our competitive advantage.
Yeah, and I think even for the mom and pops, if we work on what would be called organic content publishing, the old school, right? Because before it was like write a book, get published in a major magazine or wherever, a trade publication. You still can do those type of things, but now a lot of these things are even online. And once you start establishing a presence, and you can start small. You start with smaller blogs. You can start with, some groups and things like that, and start small and start getting published out. Once that a person starts getting published out, bigger entities are far more agreeable to talk to them. So, and I learned this, I, for example, I got published, I'm going to toot my own horn a little bit here. I got published in Forbes 3 times in the last 2.25 months. But I didn't start out when I was first going to Forbes. They're like, yeah, kid, I don't really know you, even though they,
Exactly.
So for mom and pops, I think it's really important that they, or any company just starting this up, if they don't want to put a ton of money in, there's paid traffic, which is a lot quicker usually.
Yeah.
And then there's organic traffic, which is, you're going to put some time and energy and effort in, but you can still make some great traction. And a lot of times the organic research results will push you up higher quicker than the paid results, depending on what you're spending. That's been my experience. Is that your experience as well, Jesse?
Absolutely. And I think as you mentioned in the beginning, you won't necessarily get like those big breakthrough results, and it will be always slower than starting with those paid ads and like paid visibility. But then if you're able to start to kind of like build that flywheel and get the snowball rolling, then the results will accumulate and of course, like pending changes in search algorithms and so forth, with those aside, any kind of like content you've gotten online will be creating traffic and business for you for the foreseeable future. So like every single thing that you do to create that kind of like online presence will help you like going forward. So once you work on that for years, the results do really add up.
Awesome. Hey, we're speaking with Jesse Nieminen. Hope I got it right that time, Jesse. From Viima. Close. By the end of this interview, I should have the right name. And we're talking a lot about online. We're talking about sales. Let's continue on with sales. One of the things I loved in one of the articles I read was one of the things you learned the hard way, you said, was that sales really is a numbers game, right? And so you have to make sure you follow them and figure out what's going on with the efforts to acquire new business. In other words, make sure the bar is high enough and that can lead to systematic and methodical growth. My question on this would be, what are the things you were paying attention to that helped you figure out what does it take to acquire the new business? What were the methodological or the measurements or the metrics that you were looking at?
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, we obviously didn't have a lot of discussions going on. And so it pretty early on, we already figured out that if we're talking to 10 potential customers, we can't really close any more deals than that. And if we want to close more deals than that, then we got to have more of those discussions going on. So with sales, it's not really rocket science, but you just got to figure out, okay, if on average we're getting this and this many discussions going on, we're able to win this and this many out of those as clients, then how many people do I need to kind of approach to get those discussions going? So it's pretty straightforward in the grand scheme of things. So you kind of build that the traditional sales funnel, so to speak. So for different kinds of businesses, it looks different. For some, it might start with cold calling. For us, it starts from getting people to our website, but still the methodology is the same. So you need to get more people in the door than you can actually win over as customers.
And so I bring this up because I teach people, companies this all the time, right? It's you have to measure your metrics, and it's the small metrics that tell the story. So for you, it's, getting them to your website so you can see they hit the website. So maybe the next small segment would be, okay, they hit the website. Did they take a free something, right? Or maybe it's a free login, or did they download a report, or did they, have some type of content consumption? And from there, it could be the next step is, okay, we had this, download of content. How many of those actually now took first step into, say, a free trial or a paid trial? And you measure all these numbers, folks. And the reason that you do that is it starts telling you a story. For example, if you have a lot of people hitting your website and no one is taking the offer, or, you got a 1% conversion and you thought you were supposed to get a 30% conversion on that, there's something wrong with the offer in most cases at that point. There's something that's not resonating, or you're driving the wrong traffic to the website. All right. So, you might be driving people that are interested in buying fencing, for example. And, you got a lot of people showing up trying to buy, I don't know, white picket fences, but they're looking for sword lessons, right? Yeah. So there's this, the metrics tell the story. And what I loved about your story, Jesse, was you guys measured these things, and it's people who do this are able to self-correct course really quickly. Did you find out that was the same for you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, of course, when you're first starting out, it might feel a bit overwhelming. You got all these numbers. Which ones do you focus on? Which are the important ones? What do you have to kind of just live with? Is it realistic to get that 30% conversion rate that you were talking about? Or is it just that 1% is the name of the game in your industry, and you just have to live with that and get more traffic? So you got to figure out the dynamics within your business. But once you start to kind of look at the figures, you do different kinds of actions, you see how they impact the figures, you kind of see where you can move the needle, and that really helps you understand the nature and dynamics of the business that you're in.
Wow. So, paying attention pays, folks. That's pretty. So, hey, one of the strategies that helped you reach seven figures and beyond was the right positioning of the niche market. Can you share what the process was that you used to find that? I know we sort of touched on this, to find that sweet spot that, you wanted to have in, and they responded to your offer.
Yeah. So, in the beginning, of course, what we were offering was really vague. Sometimes we were talking about customer engagement, employee engagement, and then we were talking about ideation and innovation, and we didn't really ourselves know what we're exactly offering, and kind of like what the value proposition was so super different. I mean, of course, there will be different kinds of customers. The different parts of our product still resonate, but it was just so vague that obviously we weren't really able to tell a convincing story of what we do. And of course, there's still room for improvement on that front. There's always room for improvement there. But once we kind of like figured out that it's the people working around innovation one way or the other, that really kind of like is our core audience, then we start to create content for them and educating them and getting them interested in what we're doing, and things start rolling in the right direction, so to speak.
What? You mean you actually figure it out first and then you create content that they actually want versus just putting out a white paper or throwing something out there and wondering whether it's going to work or not? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's an iterative process. So you do some of that first, and then once you see something working, you got to double down on that. So you can't just think that first through and then kind of like implement it. So in reality, it's not as easy and linear as we make it sound here.
Right. But it reminds me of a conversation I was having with a gentleman one time at a live, I went to a live event, and he said, I can't make Facebook ads work. I said, well, tell me what you're doing. And he said, well, I just put $100,000 down and I got no leads. And I said, 100 grand, how long you been doing this? He goes, oh, it's my first month. I said, he goes, I think I'm going to spend 120,000 this month. He goes, what do you think? I said, I don't think that's a smart idea. Right. And so we were having this conversation. He's like, well, what are you talking about? So I said, can I ask you a couple of questions? He said, yeah. I said, are you aware of what you're doing, or are you hiring a company and leaving it to them? He said, oh, we're hiring a company. And I said, let me guess, they're on a percentage of spend each month. And he said, yes, 10%. And I said, well, guess what? Your bill is going to be $180,000 or $200,000 in 6 months from now. And you're still going to get the same challenge happening. And probably because you don't know just what we talked about, Jesse, which is getting the ideal persona, building your story, creating content based on what they want, and driving that to them. I know this is a basic concept of human communication, ladies and gentlemen, but I can tell you, and Jesse's smiling and laughing, so I can tell in his response here that he agrees with this. Is this correct?
Yeah, definitely. And then one of the things that I loved about your story is that this is the part that you really can't outsource. So this is the thing that you have to do as a like a leader, as a business owner, whatever your role is. This is the part that you really have to do, and you can't really let anyone else kind of like hope that someone else fixes it for you.
So perfect. Are you a leader or are you a manager in your business? If you're a leader, you cannot outsource this without understanding the process, unless you want to have a high probability of having pain come into your life. And, exactly. And the reason I say this, Jesse, I used to own certain companies. An SEO company was one of them, right? And over 70% of our clients had already tried SEO and it failed for this particular reason. They weren't really clear on everything we were just talking about. You brought up leadership, and I'd love to touch on mentorship. And how important is it for people to get the right type of mentorship, or the right, mentor, or somebody who's sort of been there before or has been there before, or, whether it's a coach or a consultant or whatever it might be, or just a mentor or an advisor? How important do you think that is in the growth of building, a multi-million-dollar plus company?
I think it's really big. So obviously when we first started, all three of us founders, we worked in like successful, fast-growing software company before we founded Viima. So we had obviously gotten a lot of great examples of how successful companies operate, what the people there are doing, and we also had the great fortune of also meeting a lot of these people throughout our studies and the incubator and accelerator programs that we had early on. So we had a lot of great examples and experienced entrepreneurs and leaders to look at and kind of take lessons from, that really helped shape our thinking and helped push us the right direction. And of course, if you are able to get just one mentor or one coach, that can be great. But I personally think that it's like you should try to get influences from all the different kinds of views and points of view, from many different kinds of people and even different industries. That really helps you shape your thinking in a much more holistic way, even though like someone's built the best company in the world, whatever they did might not be what you have to do, but a lot of the principles and lessons that they've learned obviously are super valuable. So there's a lot you can learn from all kinds of different people. So I think it's super important to get some feedback and like really focus on your own education in the process.
You know, for such a guy who's half my age or less, you have sage advice, right? This is spot on, and based on my life's experience, you know, if you're taking mentors who are not congruent with your own life's vision, and they're pressing upon you what they did, but you really don't want to accomplish that, you could still garner and take some things from that and make it your own. But try to find people who have similar life's vision of their own company. If you don't want for example, a multi-billion-dollar corporation, then, you know, you can listen to those folks, because, you know, a fool listens to no one and a wise man listens to everyone. But you have to make your own decisions. I think it's powerful advice you just gave, to have somebody and be congruent in that process of understanding, okay, this person has accomplished this, but when I look at their life, it's not my life I want. And, you know, take what you can from that, but find people that like, okay, this person really has the life that I want and the business style that I want. And so I can rely more on that information to accomplish what I want to accomplish. So very powerful advice. We're talking with Jesse Nieminen. God, I am going to get this. Jesse, how do you say your name? Nieminen. Oh, I got it right. All right. So Nieminen, Jesse Nieminen from Viima, and he's been so wonderful and indulgent on me not pronouncing his name correctly. And he has an innovation vision software for a service, SaaS company. And it's a really, really, really great product. I highly recommend. So Jesse, if people want to, you know, sample, you know, take a free login or, you know, get something from you to build a relationship, how do they do so? What's the best way to get a hold of you or contact your company?
It's our website. So viima.com, Viima.com. There you'll find a lot of blog posts and articles and materials on how to get started with innovation, how to do all of that well. And then if you want to try our software, you can sign up for the free version. As mentioned, it's available for as many users as you want and for as long as you want. So you can get a lot done with even the free version.
Yeah, go there now, folks. Go Viima.com. I've checked it out. It's a really cool software. I was really impressed. And I thank you for being here. I have one last question. I love asking this question at the end of each podcast interview because I always get some unique answers. So I wanted to see what you would hear. If you could go back in time or even in present time, and you could recreate yourself as somebody, either living or not, and you could say, hey, this is the person that I would have liked to been at that time, but I can take it now forward in the year 2021. And I want to be that person. And here's the things that I would do to make great changes in the world, knowing who I am based on that personality before. Who would that person be, and what changes would you make?
That's a tough one. I have to say, it's really hard to kind of like figure out just one answer to that. But I think for me, like working so closely on innovation, I think it would have to be some of the like big innovators in the history and kind of like be in their seat and try to kind of like figure out how to really take those innovations to the next level, or maybe even come up with another one with the special skills and knowledge and education and smarts that those guys obviously have had. But yeah, I don't know if I can name one for you right now.
You know, it doesn't have to be one. So, you know, the point being taken though out of this is success leaves clues. And if you follow the trail of past successes, you can usually figure out what someone's doing. Now, if you can get with them and really figure out, what they've been doing, because they tell you, hey, this is what we did. Just like, you said here, Jesse, on this call, we made some mistakes. We shouldn't have done this, but we should have done that. And we did do this, and this worked out, but this didn't. That speeds up our learning curve, and it speeds up our implementation. Like, as you said in the beginning of this interview, ideas, are nice, but they're not much unless they're implemented and put into value. And the same thing on all learning. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge is potential power. It is not power until implemented. So
exactly.
Jesse, I want to thank you for being here. This has been a wonderful time. I know people are going to get a lot of value out of this, and we're going to sign off now. So Jesse, thanks for being on the call, and we'll look forward to a future call together.
My pleasure. Talk to you again.
Hey, this is Doug C. Brown again. My gosh, what a great opportunity to understand online marketing and doing it the right way. So many people are doing it incorrectly. They're going in reverse, if you will. You want to start out with your life's vision, and you find your ideal prospect or profile for that. And the reason you want to find your ideal prospect or your profile is because you want to build a story that's going to attract those people, and you want to get them to give you the information on what they want so that you can deliver content that they want to consume. Once they consume that content, they're starting the process. We talked a bit about getting in the door. If you can't develop the relationship with somebody, you're in trouble. And if you can't get the person to connect with you, and you can't connect with them to take the next step to build the relationship, you're not going to have the relationship. Relationships are what lead to more sales. And one of the greatest sales growth strategies out there is human contact, right? Because the master prospector will always outsell the master closer. And so the more prospective people that you can talk to, and the more prospective people that buy, the more that you'll be able to expand those sales. So it's a very simple concept, but a lot of people don't really understand it. And so you want to follow the pathway that he talked about in building online, and how these SaaS companies are actually doing it, because, online's here to stay, folks. And at least for the next 10 years, I can foresee that. And it has changed business and the way we do business forever. So if you like this podcast, please go up and give it a 5-star review. If you have comments or questions, please send them in. You can send them into youmatter@businesssuccessfactors.com. And share what you want for future upcoming episodes, and we will try to provide what you're seeking. Again, this is Doug C. Brown from the CEO Sales Strategy Podcast. Have an awesome day, and go out and sell something, so to speak.